It's not great lighting here. I've actually got a lamp, like a spooky lamp, just because the light's kind of backlit and everything. Yeah, I was just thinking about Gollum from Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And I remember this thing about Gollum. You know, he's talking about the ring and everything, and says that the ring is his birthday present, because I think the story goes back that it was like Smeagol and Deagle, and it was Gollum's birthday, or Smeagol's birthday, and his brother found the ring, and Gollum, or Smeagol, strangled the brother and took the ring, and forevermore, you know, it was his birthday present, his his right. That's the thing. I think about, because at first it's like, oh yeah, my birthday. You know, it's like my birthday, like the idea of, you know, this is a selfish, like a self-consumed character. But I was thinking, no, it's more poignant than that, and it's more kind of relevant than that, because I think, like, the ring's obviously a metaphor, obviously, like everything in Lord of the Rings. It's kind of, in a way, it's realer than day-to-day life, because it's the significance of day-to-day life that you see in the symbols, like what's really happening on a human level. But of course it's all metaphors, they're just very potent metaphors and very real metaphors. But anyway, yeah, obviously the ring's a metaphor, and the ring has to be returned to the fires from whence it came. Has to go, it's almost like counterintuitive. You have to not only return the ring, but return the ring to the worst place on earth. And of course, like, this is, you know, like the idea in all of the, like, the spiritual traditions that are actually spiritual, or spiritual, what's the word? Instincts, I guess, that people have, that the traditions come from, and that you have to work on yourself and all this kind of stuff. You have to return all of these, like, all of the stuff that's coming up needs to be returned, in a sense, or or dealt with, you know, as opposed to escalating the idea of the ring being worn around Frodo's neck like a triangle. This kind of thing, the self. You know, it's like, it's about working on the self. And of course, Gollum's, you know, he's a lost cause. That's the point of Gollum. You have all of the characters who are like different dynamics in this like adventure of kind of a kind of shamanic adventure of purifying oneself spiritually. And Gollum, of course, is a lost cause. That's his role. Other than the fact that, you know, being that he's connected with the story, of course, in the end, he helps out inadvertently. But just because all things being connected, you know, it's like you don't really cut anything off of the picture, even the lost cause, Gollum. But it's his birthday present. I was thinking, it's interesting because, of course, birthdays are so important when you're very young, and they become less important. Not only because, you know, fear of death and stuff like that, but just it has a different significance. I think it's because when children are born, it's like you want to give the message that they are welcome. Because, of course, empathizing with being born and loving your children. It's like, that that's a big question mark. Am I welcome? And of course you are given the birthday present, which is like your right to exist. It's to say that, we wanted you here, and we are giving you happiness in this form, in this symbolic form. And in a lot of cases does make for a lot of kind of temporary happiness for children. But in this symbolic form, it's like we're saying, yeah, you're okay, kind of thing. And then, of course, what happens is, as you get older, you realise that sometimes it is the case that your birthright, whatever it is that, conceptually, you could see as a happy life, whatever that may entail, often eludes you. And sometimes, you come to terms with this, or you become acquainted with this kind of cyclic thing, or maybe even being at the bottom of a cycle for many years, if not your whole life. But you become acquainted with the fact that you may not have a birthright. You may be just existing peculiarly, with no birthday present, and whatever that might be, it could be whatever, a lifestyle, a job, a relationship, a child, an artwork, or whatever it is, or whatever it is that seems to fit the bill, that validates your existence by providing you with some kind of, what's the word, affinity with your own needs? No, not affinity, like the reality and what seems to be a good idea for you, having some sort of affinity. So that tends to elude sometimes or all the time. And that's the thing with Gollum, which is really poignant, is that, being consumed by by the dark forces, and sort of kind of like a heroin addict, it's just kind of completely subservient to these forces, and yet always sort of wanting. It's not really a depression; it's a craving, and he's craving that birthright, his birthday present, the idea of being loved by existence, of some kind of validation. But yeah. So I think that's such a poetic and quite a deep note in that book, The Birthday Present, and it relates to Frodo. Of course, Frodo and Gollum are very connected, and Frodo has to give up the birthday present. They all do, but I mean, Frodo. The task is on Frodo's shoulder. He's got to renounce the birthday present, and it's interesting. I guess he kind of fails. And he gets pretty far, but of course it shows the human weakness, or the halfling weakness. But there's also that's interesting, because there's a charity to that world, because Frodo goes all the way, and then he fails at the very last moment. He shows his halfling weakness at the very last moment, and yet, all things being connected, this flip side of his character, which is Gollum's. Gollum, the kind of the darkness with the spot of white, his, the poignancy of his sadness, the spot, the fact that it's just craving for happiness, and Frodo sort of the light, yet with the spot of darkness that, everyone has a breaking point, and yet because the two are unified, Gollum then, finishing things off, he bites off Frodo's fingers, doesn't he? He takes the ring and then he falls into the fire. Sorry to spoil the film. You probably know the story. But then that's interesting because that's the charity of life. It's like, well, he got this far, mate. You know, Frodo got this far. He got further than any. Still failed, but in the end, there is that charity, which is like quite profound. The way it's all woven together, and it's almost like the message is, yeah, you do get the birthday present. When it comes to is this reality charitable or not? In this story, you know, this poetic story, which seems to strike a chord. It's like Frodo kind of does get the birthday present. It's, you know, he gets the thumbs up, as does Middle Earth in general. And yeah, I kind of think the birthday present. Anyway.